Let's talk about jumping off stuff. The second hardest part about trials riding is jumping off the things that you work so hard to climb up. So I'm going to show you a bunch of different variations that you can practice on basically anything. You can do it on a small ledge, or you can do all of them on a curb as well. I'll show you the basics to each one, and I'll walk you through step by step how to get them done. Let's go. Before we dive too deep into learning how to drop, there is one thing I really want to lock in with you. This goes for almost everything trials related, especially as you learn new things, and that is to start small and work your way up. For nearly every trials technique, you won't need anything higher than a curb to get started. Start small and minimize your risk, and as you get confident and comfortable, then advance to bigger and higher features. Curbs, a single pallet, a stair step, seriously, these are vital in your learning process and will help you a lot more than falling off a much larger ledge could ever do. Now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to break down a handful of ways you can drop off ledges. They are two-wheel drop, front wheel pivot drop, back wheel drop, 180 front wheel drop, 360 nose drop, Bronco drop. And just for fun, here's a shot of my favorite variation, the rebounder drop. Before we dig into any of these techniques, there are 3 skills that you absolutely must have on lock: track stand, back wheel hops, and pedal kicks. If you're not absolutely confident in any of those 3, I'll put a link in the top right to my tutorials on trials basics. Brush up on those moves first, then come back here and we can keep it moving forward. If you've already got them locked in, we're good to go. Now 3 basics as we get rolling. This applies to every single drop technique. Number 1, always land with your back wheel first. Number 2, don't move on until you can do something 3 times in a row. Number 3, start small and move up with confidence. You don't need any major height to execute proper form on any of these moves, and you don't get bonus points for crashing on bigger drops. Get the form perfect and then move on and up. We will start with the two-wheel drop, which is the easiest way to jump off of something. You can practice this move on flat ground even before dropping off anything, just hopping with both wheels locked up from one place to another. The height of the drop will determine how far out you need to drop, and the reason for the need to jump farther out on higher obstacles is that you don't want to clip a pedal or a handlebar on the way down. But since we're just learning, I recommend starting with flat ground and then moving to a curb for your first attempt. Roll up parallel to the curb, crouch into the bike, then explode up and over, pulling the bike with you. As you come down, push down with your rear wheel first, and then absorb the landing with your legs as the front of the bike comes down. By the time your front wheel lands, it should be a light touch on the ground. Do this move over and over until you can do it in your sleep. You'll build finesse and smoothness into the movement, which helps you tremendously as you build out more on this foundation. Front wheel pivot drops are a variation of the two-wheel drop. As opposed to hopping both wheels off the drop at the same time, you'll lean forward and pivot your back wheel out over the drop, then pull up with your shoulders to unweight the front wheel and hop it off the ledge. The trick here is to stay focused on landing the back wheel first, even though your weight is all over your front wheel. As soon as you've unweighted that front wheel off the ledge and hopped off, you'll want to start leaning back. This takes a bit of practice. I've seen the most amount of slams when people learn this one because they end up leaning back too hard or too far behind the wheel, and they land directly on their backs. I know I sound like a broken record on this one, but start small and work your way up on these. You can absolutely do this technique properly on a curb. The back wheel drop is next. Obviously, this is the showstopper and the one everyone wants to see. Let's get you dialed in on the proper form for this technique. As I said earlier, you want to have pedal kicks and back wheel hops locked in before you try this. And again, you should be starting on something small like a curb. Minimize your risk at all turns. There's absolutely no advantage to learning this trick on any sort of height beyond a curb in the very beginning. In theory, what you want to do with a back wheel drop is get your center of balance directly over the corner of the drop. Once you're there, you'll lower your front wheel down to near horizontal level with your rear wheel and release the rear brake as you gently push the pedals to push your rear wheel off the ledge. It's not a giant pedal kick off the ledge, you're just gently rolling off the corner. As the bike drops, you'll push your back wheel down to the landing and absorb with your legs as the rest of the bike comes down. Doing this perfect means that the front wheel lands lightly and you roll away smooth from the landing. If you feel like the bike just went crack on the landing, there's definitely room for improvement. The stylish form of this technique is to one-hop the rear wheel into place and get that front wheel down super low before the drop. But for the purpose of learning, use your rear wheel hops to really feel out that ledge and get your rear wheel exactly where you want it. Doing the big single hop to back wheel when you're learning will more often than not put you too far behind the drop, and you'll have to push the pedals halfway around to get the rear wheel over the edge. risking an over-the-bar situation and potentially a mild heart attack in the process. Every move can be polished as you progress, so save that until you get the basics nailed down. Another thing worth practicing is getting up onto your back wheel near the drop and hopping your front wheel around to a specific location. Again, you can do this on a curb and just start parallel with the drop and hop your wheel until you're at 90 degrees and ready to drop down. You'll use this variation quite a bit in your riding, and it's always best to practice these moves in low consequence environments. 180 and 360 drops. Needless to say, if you can rotate a 180 on your front wheel on flat ground, you may want to hold off on this one until you can. The technique is almost the exact same on flat ground as it is for both of these drops. You'll roll up to the ledge, turn your front wheel in the opposite direction, and rotate your back wheel out. On the 180 drop, you'll use your shoulders to unweight the front wheel, and your momentum from the 180 will be enough to pull you away from the drop. On the 360, you'll use your shoulders to unweight, but will have to continue the twist. Be extremely aware of your back wheel during both these maneuvers. You'll want to keep it as high as possible throughout the technique. If you drop your back wheel too fast, you're going to end up on your back. The 180 drop is easy to practice on curbs, although the 360 may require a little bit of height depending on how fast you can spin. These are more intermediate or advanced techniques though, so if you're not crushing the previous drop techniques, maybe save this one until you have the basic style. Last, the Bronco Drop is more style than substance. You're at the lip of the drop and you push your bike out in front of you, tag the edge lightly with your back wheel, and float down to the landing. To do this super smooth, you're barely touching your brakes and you're finessing your body to make the move look effortless as you readjust your body position on the way down to the landing. To completely mess up this move, you'd be coming up short on the back wheel before you get to the landing and flipping over the bars, or just landing super hard. Practice this one by starting with a slight angle to the ledge and straighten it out as you improve. You can also do this up and over small features once you feel super confident. So these are all the basic drops you can learn as you're starting out. There are countless variations, and the terrain you ride will undoubtedly require some new approaches as well. But once you've got these foundational drops in place, the world opens up. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Thanks again for checking out these videos. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll keep making as many tutorials as I possibly can. Thanks again.